Welcome back to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed Smith. Today we're going to take a dive into a league that I just joined in the summer of 2021. And this league is called Who's Better. It's a 12-team league with two 6-team divisions. And the Who's Better league name is actually pretty relevant here, as it's got some different rules. And so sometimes I like to play in leagues that maybe have a different set of people with different sets of rules so that I can allow the same blueprint to roll out with different criteria, if you will, so that I can just tweak it around and make sure that I really am onto something and the blueprint works no matter what kind of league things take form. So as we take a look at this, some of the unique rules, I guess you could say, in this kind of a league is that it has two 3-team divisions, which I mentioned, that you can't trade within your division because at the end of the year, the top 3 teams, no matter what the record are in each division, go into the playoffs. The 2 top teams, the winning teams, actually both get a bye, and then number 2 versus number 3 and number 2 versus number 3 in the other divisions begin the playoff run. And then if there's an even number of each division losing, they'll face the opposite division, number 1 and number 2 seeds, so that we're always facing off against the other division. And the regular season has 2 matchups against your division for 10, and then 1 against the top teams, or however you slot in from the year before. So the schedule's made up that way, where you don't play the other division as often, and you play your division. And you also can't trade within your division during the season, or you can make one trade during the season. So, for a person like me that does a lot of trading, I guess I don't do a lot of trading, but I like to have the option of doing a lot of trading. And I set the market based on trades I make. This was definitely something different for me because I wasn't able to push the market, based on making offers that I wasn't intending to have accepted, but just to push maybe player values or position values up and down, which I try to do in leagues, and I try to utilize even the message board as a means to get to the result that I'm looking for, and just how I chat on the board and what I say with, I try not to put anything that doesn't have meaning behind it. And so people that play in leagues with me, I'm typically a villain, and I take that role on because what it tends to do is people focus on the things that I'm saying, not the things that I'm doing. And the more that they focus on what I say, then it becomes, we kind of laugh at, when I talk with friends about it, that I tell a lot of lies on the board, and I kind of do the opposite of what I say I'm doing. And I kind of make these outlandish trade requests to get everybody talking about them, and then I maneuver on the waiver wire and pick something up while they're focused on the bad trade that I set. And I'm asking them if they're trade bashing me, and meanwhile I'm putting a waiver claim in and getting somebody at a cheaper value. And I try to get people looking in other directions, and so that way I can capitalize on a market and maybe buy at a cheaper price. And it's all really about buying low, selling high, selling the hype, buying the news. And I feel like, and it's supply and demand pushing the market and setting the market up. And so when you take over a team like this, so we've got a different set of rules, and now I'm taking over an orphan. Part of the reason I like the orphan was I like the players on the orphan. So as we look at just kind of how things are and scoring wise, it was a scoring format that I was pretty familiar with, even though there's some quirks to it, with an extra half point for every first down, rushing, receiving. And but I don't focus on those kind of things. To me, I look at the things that I care about. Really, there's some extra points for quarterbacks, but I already push quarterback values up in my world. So having extra points for the quarterback and realizing that the super flex needs to be a quarterback doesn't hurt me. So I don't really focus on that because it's kind of my game plan going in. I never try to have a non-quarterback in that spot, so I don't focus on the fact that maybe in this league you need it more, because I'm already trying to push those quarterbacks up, higher in value anyway. It just kind of pushes, it allows me to push my agenda, if you will. But here, you have 1 PPR point for across the board, and then 2 for tight ends. And why that's important is we start 10 people, with one quarterback, one super flex, two running backs, two receivers, and one tight end, three flex. And why that's important is what I'm trying to do here is I do have my tight ends listed last, and I'm young at tight end, but wouldn't mind eventually, when this team gets to a championship team, starting four tight ends and all three in the flex spot. And you'll see that coming up later when I have this double tight end premium. You know, leagues when you get double the points for a tight end over every other position, I then like to be able to monopolize the tight end position. And if, in a league like this, if I were to have four of the top 12 tight ends, that means that only 8 other teams can possibly have a top 12 tight end just because I have 4. And I venture to bet that none of those other 4 or none of those other 8 will be able to also have 4 that they start each and every week. And so I can start them all, and so they're not even just sitting on my bench just taking up spots. So the roster capital or the draft capital doesn't need to be wasted on them because I can actually use them as starting positions and float them in and out, and they're probably better than some of their other players. But how it's currently established right now, because there's only 2 wide receivers, and I was given a team full of wide receivers, I haven't been able to kind of push the envelope around yet and maneuver. And then without trade ability, it's kind of like people come and die, and you're going to see some players that I'd love to move, but I just can't get anything for them. And I kind of came down to they were starters for me. They were producing 10 to 15 points a week, and if you can't trade a 10 to 15 point starter for more than a third round rookie pick that might get cut, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I'd rather just start him and take the 10 to 12 points. Like, and that's kind of what I came down to, because the guys on my bench weren't getting 10 to 12 points, so the replacement value, points over replacement, wasn't enough to just trade for a dart. And so unless I get 5 darts, and I'm limited to the amount of trade partners I have, so it just didn't work to move. And so I may try to do something here in the off season, as I'm just getting more and more accustomed to the league, but haven't really had that yet. And so we'll dive into the quarterbacks first, and that's Pat Mahomes. And I always laugh when I have Pat Mahomes on the team, because any team that has Pat Mahomes always has a shot to win. And so this team actually came in third place last year and got to the playoffs in my division, but didn't win. So I didn't get the most money. But every team in the division, if your division wins, makes money, gets their money back. So I did get my money back. So this wasn't my first year in the league, and I got my money back. So I'm 0 for 0 really in this league with a team that I think has a shot to win, and yet we still have some road, work to go, and the draft capital really isn't there. So there's not a lot that you can do in the trade market. But with Pat Mahomes, we always have a shot. Last year, my rookie pick that I got, I had one pick in the first round, and I took Justin Fields. And so that's my other starter really at the Superflex right now. Is we have Mahomes and Fields, and I guess I feel like with those 2 guys, there's always a shot to win. But then we start to look at the other quarterbacks in a 12-team league, and Daniel Jones and Mills are both starters today. And so that would be 4. And so if we multiply that out, that's 48 starters. So we're already ahead of the curve with starting quarterbacks. And then there's some backups, but the backups are decent quality, with Flacco and Mason Rudolph, who the Pittsburgh Steelers say might start. And Kyle Allen is one of my guys that has been a starter before, so I like him as far as that goes. I still have Boyle on the team, and that was more just because there was talk a year ago that he might start, even though he was never really going to start. Drew Lock, Huntley, who is a plug and play whenever Lamar's not there, Tyrod Taylor, and I like Tyrod because I feel like he's been a bridge quarterback now 3 or 4 times to a rookie, so it wouldn't shock me if a rookie gets drafted and here comes in Tyrod to start again, and then that would take my number to 5. And I'm just kind of counting how many starters I have, because that means that we subtract that from 32, and that's how few the other 11 teams have. And so that's kind of what I'm doing there. And then Ellinger, and depending on what happens with Wentz, maybe they give him a shot, maybe they don't. I can't see them doing that, but you never know. And so I'm just kind of holding on to guys and seeing what they do one thing about Ellinger that I like is that they traded away Eason and said, okay, we don't need you anymore. And they basically elevated him to the number 2 spot as a rookie. So they must like him enough to do something there. Like, we didn't see that happen with Mond and some of the other guys. Like, Mannion stayed around in Minnesota. Mond never even got off the practice squad or the third team, emergency quarterback, stature. So I guess I feel like that's, point that at least Ellinger was a thing, as a backup. So we'll look forward to seeing if he ever gets a shot, and he may never, but it's a dart throw end of the bench type of guy. Looking at the tight end, and I want to build this, and I'm not happy with the room, but it's Young, and so Young, we can always deal with Young, and so Fant is the starter currently, but I have Cole Kmet and Hunter Long, and so it wouldn't shock me if I start 2 of those 3 at some point and have one in the flex. But that's kind of where we sit, and this team feels a little bit light at running back, so I'm always looking for something to happen, but I gutted my way through with this running back room to get to a 3rd place finish. So, and as we go through the running backs, we're going to see that it's kind of a weak room, but it got to 3rd. So I guess I say that, know that the running back room should be better next year than it was this year, because it's highlighted with Derrick Henry, and so he was hurt half the year, and so to finish in 3rd place, this was a team that was in 1st place until Derrick Henry went down, and I was starting guys like Gaskin and Jordan Howard and Jamal Williams and Gore and Jaret Patterson and Sargent. I mean, that's the running back room, and I had to start 2. But with Derrick Henry leading the charge, I just need one of the other guys to be adequate, really. And I do think that Jordan Howard actually has the ability to be Mike Davis this year. Like, sign with somebody as the bell cow, I ship him off for something and before the season starts, and kind of double down and get some more youth. But, maybe Jamal Williams or Gaskin, we can just work our way through and get something. Or as we look at the receiver room, maybe I'll try to sell high on a receiver and get something back. And I think that there's a couple places I can go receiver selling wise and be okay. So the receiver room is, we only start 2, but then some flexes, but we can utilize flexes with a lot of different ways. I have Debo and Deontay Johnson, Zay Jones, and DJ Chark, and I list those 4 first because really only need 2. Zay Jones won't bring what I like him back, so we basically have those other 3. And the people that I would look to move are probably Debo or Chark, and you'd be like, why would you move Debo? Well, Debo's 26, so he's not as young as we think. He and Zay Jones kind of share a birthday, if you will, the same age, and yet we feel like Zay Jones is old and Debo's young. And I think Debo might be selling a career year. He might be people think that he is maybe more than he is, and while I like him, I guess I could see myself getting a J.K. Dobbins type of running back plus maybe a small Ayuk type receiver back, and so, or maybe a J.K. Dobbins and then a lower end running back, back that nobody's really thinking about. Maybe can pop Debo into 2 running backs, and then all of a sudden this team looks real good because we just still get to start Deontay Johnson, Zay Jones, and Chark, and then we still have Devontae Parker, who's older but was the number 1 unless Waddle takes over that pillar. But again, he's cheap and you can keep starting him. And then we have Josh Gordon, who is really a placeholder, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Paris Campbell and little Jordan Humphrey as well. So a lot of darts there, but I also think with where the draft picks that we have are located, we're going to get some more receivers and probably some frontline receivers. So I guess I'm kind of in that mind that I'm either going to sell Chark when he signs with somebody and there's hype, or sell Debo at a high point and really try to cash in on some running backs and just turn that running back room into something with Debo, and still having Deontay Johnson and Zay Jones as the 2 starters, and then let one of those rookies, roll in. And with the picks at the 10 and the 11 and the 22, I think they might all 3 be running backs, unless that 22 is a McBride type tight end or something. But I'm sorry, 10 and 11 will be receivers. They might all be receivers, and they might be high-end receivers. Like, we still might be able to get Olave type receivers out of those spots. And so if that's the case, I really think this team can drafting the receivers there. Obviously, if running backs fall, I can't imagine the top three are going to fall to that spot, which are the running backs I'm really interested in. And I can't imagine the top three quarterbacks fall to that spot. So that's going to be 6 of those first 10. And so if you think that I need 3 receivers, so the 4th best receiver in the draft, comes to me, that's a pretty good pick. The 4th and the 5th best receiver in the draft come to me. There's pretty quality receivers at the 4 and 5 spot in that draft, and that's what I guess I'm targeting at the 10 and 11 spot, thinking, you know what, I might get 2 starters out of that, and I plot that with Deontay Johnson and Zay Jones. I basically have, two more guys that Debo and Chark become luxury items that if I can turn them into 3 running backs and maybe a pick or 2, then it becomes something of value. And we can kick the can down the road a little bit, and then also have a big team. And then if, let's just say, it doesn't work, just hypothetically this team doesn't work out, then I'm going to sell Henry for, we're at week 5 and the team is just terrible because everybody got hurt and it's just a joke. We're selling Henry, and we're going, we're going again, and we still feel like Fields, Jones, and Mahomes we can run it back with them, and Deontay Johnson, we can run it back with him, and we just have enough there that's young that we can keep running it back, and so I'm excited for where this team goes, and would love to hear your comments on it, and how I'm doing with the takeover of a team. I did get drafted a lot of this team. You can check the team, and then you can check my first rookie draft, and you'll see that a lot of this team has been here for me, like the AJ Green. That was the guy I was talking about trading away. I can't really move AJ Green or Parker away, but those guys, when they play, they average 10 or 15 points a game, and 10 and 15 points in the flex was good compared to everybody else, and that just kind of kept me winning. I mean, if I'm winning with Gaskin as my RB1 and Jordan Howard as my RB2, if I'm winning games with that, then obviously those flex spots of Green and Parker are really scoring points, because we know that Chark was hurt and Debo was scoring all kinds of points. So we started with that, and I was putting Cole Kmet in a flex for a while because he was getting double the tight end points and with Fan. So I think those guys are getting better. Would even be looking to trade Fan away if I could recover some more draft capital and maybe another running back. Try to sell high on the fact that once he gets going, if maybe a quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers goes there, Fan's value will go skyrocket. They might really be valuable too, but I'd sell that hype. And see what I could get back. And I'm in the prowl. I know the 10 and 11 spot aren't going to bring those top 3 running backs back. So I'm looking for the Josh Jacobs types, or the Dobbins types, or the Akers types. Somebody wanting to sell off of Akers after the performance in the Super Bowl. I'll buy it. And you're going to buy it, guys, at 23 years old. Like that's kind of the wheelhouse. And if I can get a throw in of like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, with one of those other running backs for, Noah Fant, I'd do that. That would change the whole facet of what I'm trying to accomplish. And so, always looking to make those kind of trades in a league like this, and excited for where this thing goes. And I'm in free right now, so it's free money. And actually, I guess last year I played for free on the other owners tabs, so the money I paid for this year I've already gotten back. So kind of, I guess, playing a free year this year again, just because my division won, and even though I didn't win, and I had the late pick, I'm picking 10th in the draft. So I mean, it's the only downside to not winning and yet finishing high, is that you get these late picks. But excited for where the team is. I'd love to hear your comments in the chat if I can ever win with this thing and get to the finish line and take out the championship here. And in my second year, I guess I'm thinking it's probable. And like to hear your comments. Like, you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, get the notification bell dinging, and thank you for all that you do and for the follows. And look forward to breaking down another team tomorrow.